Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session, beginning our journey through An Humorous Day's Mirth by George Chapman. It's not a desperately long text, but we're going to stretch it out over 3 sessions. It would be a bit. It's a bit too long to fit in 2, and also there's quite a lot to talk about, I think, and quite a lot of characters buzzing in and out, and we will struggle at times to quite make the scene sing with the number of people we've got in the room, because say the doubling, it's very difficult to make this double with sometimes with the numbers that we have. So we will take our time with this text, especially as in a sense we've done some of these plays in the wrong order. We did a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, Ben Jonson's Everyman in His Humour. This is An Humorous Day's Mirth, so which was produced beforehand, and was a not unsuccessful play. I'm not going to give too many spoilers about its history at this stage, but it is part of a trend in the late 1590s of a certain kind of play. So it's quite important to dig into it. It was also, I'm not 100% certain, I think it may be our first George Chapman, or at least our first full George Chapman. I'm not sure if we've done any yet. Certainly we've processed scripts for most of his early work, but I can't now remember whether we've actually read any of them. So this is a series of firsts as we start filling in the gaps at the end of the 16th century. We are running out of 16th century, and yes, running out of the 1590s. So this is quite exciting for me. It's a lovely box ticking exercise in so many different ways, which excites me and bores the rest of the universe. So reading today, Colinet is
Lois Potter here in London.
Reading Foyes and Moren is...
Hi, I'm Eric and I'm here.
Reading Labervele is...
Hello, my name's Francis Cox. I'm an actor living in Amsterdam.
Reading Lemot today is...
Hello, I'm Sascha and I'm an actress living in Brighton.
Reading Catalian is...
Hello, I'm Lynn. I'm a teacher. I live in the northwestern United States.
Reading Blanuel today is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian and I'm in Hull.
Reading the Countess is...
Hello, I'm Lalitte. I'm a teacher coming from Paris.
And reading Martia today is... You're the last in the room. You shouldn't be surprised at that point that I was going to jump to you.
Rachael, actor on the East Coast, was just about to take a sip of my tea.
My timing as ever. Actually, not quite the last, because we have Alan who will be reading Florilla, and depending on, we've got a latecomer who may be able to get here in time to join us, but may also read in Labesha. So, Alan, introduce yourself.
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions and pointing out where any textual errors may live in this particular edition. It was a bit of a rough job after the initial assessment, so there might be some creeping errors. I think it's reasonably okay. Certainly the first third, I think, got more attention than perhaps later in the play. So that's a magical mystery tour that everyone can be terrified about coming up. We start with scene 1. We're just breaking this text down into individual scenes, not attempting any kind of act structure. We have the entrance of the Count Labervele in his shirt and nightgown with 2 letters in his hand.
Yet hath the morning sprinkled throughout the clouds, but half her tincture, and the soil of night sticks still upon the bosom of the air. Yet sleep doth rest my love for nature's debt, and through her window and this dim twilight, her maid, nor any waking I can see. This is the holy green, my wife's close walk, to which not any but herself alone hath any key, only that I have clapped her key in wax, and made this counterfeit, to which I steal access to work this rare and politic device. Fair is my wife, and young and delicate, although too religious in the purest sort. But pure religion, being but mental stuff, and sense indeed all for itself, 'tis to be doubted that when an object comes fit to her humour, she will intercept religious letters sent unto her mind, and yield unto the motion of her blood. Here have I brought then 2 rich agates for her, graven with 2 poses of mine own devising. For poets I'll not trust, nor friends, nor any. She longs to have a child, which yet, alas, I cannot get, yet long as much as she. And not to make her desperate, thus I write in this fair jewel, though it simple be, yet 'tis mine own that meaneth well in naught. Despair not in children, love with the longest, when man is at the weakest. When man is at the weakest, God is at strongest. I hope 'tis plain and knowing. In this other that I write, God will reward her 1,000-fold, that takes what age can, and not what age would. I hope 'tis pretty and pathetical. Well, even here, lie both together till my love arise, and let her think you fall out of the skies. I will to bed again.
And exit. This is an interesting way to start a play. This is both quite personal, and I'm not quite sure what to make of all of it. And I'm intrigued. I'm very curious. I genuinely, I that wasn't expecting that, and I've read it. Rachael.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. This is so different from so many prologues or openings, by taking a prologue and kind of personifying it, and even in the clothes that the Count is described in wearing at this moment, that he's in his shirt and nightgown, gives the sense that this is something he's been going over all night, to himself. So it creates even the language is so different from I don't know, a lot of the other stuff that we've been looking at. Very individual.
Yeah, it's occasionally it's hinting at pauses where you've got this sort of half line and politic device, and it feels like moments of hesitation, and it's someone caught between first and second sleep. It seems to be that he's just got up in the middle of the night and he's just, I've got this thing. I might be projecting on that. There may have been a prologue that didn't survive, separate. We don't know. But yeah, other thoughts on the room, tonally, about what this is doing and about who this chap is. Lois, then Alan.
The one thing is that he must be an old man. That's what makes sense of the verses. He's an old man with presumably a young wife, and they haven't been able to have a child. And that's the point of the verses in a way, although he seems to want his wife to think that they're anonymous and that they fell out of the skies. He also, he talks very affectionately of his wife. On the other hand, he's just made a key that she obviously doesn't know about to get into a place that she thought was private to herself. So he talks about being politic, which tends to mean scheming. So yeah, we get sort of mixed feelings about him, I think.
Yeah, because in a sense, he clearly does. We're seeing it from his point of view. So there seems to be genuine problems. They both want a child. Yet long as much as she, I cannot get. I'm wondering about that. All sorts of things going on there. But of course, yes, a bit controlly as well. But we've been there before. Alan, then Helen.
Yeah, I found it interesting that stage direction explicitly says that he's got 2 letters, and yet there's no reference to them in his speech whatsoever.
I'm just checking whether that's an error, because I think it should be. It's the 2 jewels, so that might be an interesting. I will look into that.
I did the first look at this in terms of the OCRing, and I looked at the facsimile that it was done from, and I certainly don't recall it being even likely to be jewels, even given the usual OCR soup.
Yeah. Helen, then Lalitte, then Lynn.
Yeah, I think jewel is figurative. I think there are a couple, they're not so much letters as pieces of paper. And on them, he has written the sort of poesy that you would write for a jewel.
Right.
That's how I read it.
And that these are pieces of paper, not actual gemstones.
Or letters in the sense we would now think about them.
Yes, and they're as if they're dropped from the sky, because this woman is very religious, therefore credulous, I think is part of the subtext.
Lalitte, and then Lynn, then Francis.
Yeah, I'm fascinated that it starts out with something so individually kind of psychologized. That's quite, I mean, I haven't read as many plays as the rest of you, but it's very rare. It kind of reminds me a lot of Molière plays where, you know, you have an old guy who kind of wants to make sure his wife is pure. So I've got a lot of Molière vibes there. And also that this sense that the more religious you are, the more you're likely to fall seems to be something that recurs quite a lot.
Lynn.
I don't know. I think it might be literally jewels. He says, I have brought then 2 rich agates for her. And agate was a carvable stone, right? So kind of a large agate set in a ring or something that has these little poesies carved in it. So I think it might be literally letters carved into little stones. And so my other question was, so when he says too religious in the purest sort, and then later says, so religious letters sent unto her mind and yield unto the motion of the blood, is he saying that she's so religious that she won't sleep with him? And so these little messages supposedly from heaven telling her that she will get a child will encourage her to actually do what it takes to conceive? Is that what's going on?
Francis, then Alan, then Lois.
I agree with Lynn. When I saw that thing about the 2 agates, I just assumed there were 2 jewels. But I was a bit confused about how can how can this man possibly engrave this poetry on 2 little jewels? So it's a very confusing opening, I think.
Oh, I don't know. It's the kind of service. He probably just went in to get a couple of keys cut, and you know, it was just a service that was on offer. You know, get your jewels engraved while you're there, while you wait. Alan and Lois.
Yeah, I mean the
I was
dramatis
getting keys cut.
Yeah.
the dramatis persona gives us a bit of a clue because his wife is described as puritanical. So you know that may be explaining the religious divide thing.
Though I don't know if that's original or whether that's been added later. Lois.
Yeah, I find that although some of this seems very simple, it's also, and I've often found this with Chapman, rather difficult to make out exactly what he's saying. You know, but pure religion being but mental stuff, and sense indeed all for itself, 'tis to be doubted that when an object comes fit to her humor, she will intercept religious letters sent unto her mind and yield unto the motion of her blood. I think he's worried about her chastity, but she's very religious, but somehow or other she might get religious letters sent to her mind, but nevertheless, I mean, her blood is the sanguine humor, it's sensuality and so on. She could somehow find herself being seduced even though she doesn't know it, or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I find it quite difficult to make out what he's talking about there, but I think maybe he's not sure either. He may be saying that he adores his wife, but he's also nervous about her chastity. Her fidelity.
Rachael.
No, sorry, Lois, finish if you're not. I was gonna say, if he is writing these into jewels and getting them carved into jewels, and he's molding a key, there's this interesting idea of molding. And to what Lois said of this contradiction, maybe that's why he has, two of them. Is it's showing that this thing that he's in, that he's at crosses. And we have the right from despair not of children to God is the strongest is on one, and then the other is God will reward her 1,000-fold to, and not what age would, is I think what's on the other from what he's. So maybe there's some weighing, physical weighing, and there's a letter in each hand or an agate in each hand that he's going back and forth with. Yeah.
Well, he's left this message behind while he goes back to bed for when she wakes up in the morning. Interesting Santa gift giving here. We'll see where we go with that, but maybe not immediately. Let's see where we go from here as we go to scene 2. Enter Lemot and Colinet.
How like you this morning, Colinet? What, shall we have a fair day?
The sky hangs full of humor, and I think we shall have rain.
Why, rain is fair weather when the ground is dry and barren, especially when it rains humor. For then do men, like hot sparrows and pigeons, open all their wings ready to receive them.
Why, then we may chance to have a fair day, for we shall spend it with so humorous acquaintance as rains nothing but humor all their lifetime.
True, Colinet, over which will I sit like an old king in an old-fashioned play, having his wife, his council, his children, and his fool about him, to whom he will sit and point very learnedly, as followeth. My council grave, and you, my noble peers, my tender wife, and you, my children dear, and thou, my fool.
Not meaning me, I hope, sir?
Oh, no, sir, but thus will I sit, as it were, and point out all my humorous companions.
You shall do marvellous well, sir.
I thank you for your good encouragement, but, Colinet, thou shalt see Catalian bring me hither an old gentleman presently, to be acquainted withal, who, in his manner of taking acquaintance, will make us excellent sport.
Why, Lemot, I think thou send'st about of purpose for young gallants to be acquainted withal, to make thyself merry in the manner of taking acquaintance.
By heaven I do, Colinet, for there is no better sport than to observe the compliment, for that's their word, compliment. Do you mark, sir?
Yes, sir. But what humour hath this gallant in his manner of taking acquaintance?
Marry, thus, sir, he will speak the very same word to a syllable after him, of whom he takes acquaintance, as if I should say, I am marvellous glad of your acquaintance. He will reply, I am marvellous glad of your acquaintance. I have heard much good of your rare parts and fine carriage. I have heard much good of your rare parts and fine carriage. So long as the compliments of a gentleman last, he is your complete ape.
Why, this is excellent.
Nay, Sarah, here's the jest of it. When he has passed this gratulation, he will retire himself to a chimney or a wall, standing, folding his arms thus. And you go and speak to him. So far as the room you are in will afford you, you shall never get him from that most gentlemanlike set or behaviour.
This makes his humour perfect. I would he would come once.
And so saying sets up what the action follows. But I think we should just briefly unpack what's going on here. We've been here before in the sense that in the future people will really like this game. But yeah, it's raining humours, hallelujah. It's raining humours, amen. Yeah, this almost this idea that it's falling from the sky. And yeah, this Colinet collects people to sort of laugh at them a bit. Again, it's something that gets picked up. And yeah, it's going, right, what kind of character is this guy? What kind of humours does he have? He just repeats stuff back at you. That's the level of this person's conversation. I don't know if anyone here has met anyone like that in real life. Whether this has a real life for us today. Briefly, before we get into the meat of the text a bit more, anyone want to leap in? Lynn.
I just want to mention that humor is a fluid. So rain is a liquid. So that's partly what that's all about. I mean, in another early modern play, there's something about a humorous night, and the footnote says damp. So humorous means moody. Humorous means wet. So this idea that fluids equate to moods or personality traits, that's all going on there.
Because in a medical sense, the balance of the fluids within you shift and adjust. But these plays will be playing with various different ideas of what humours mean. So but it's quite nice to have that sort of crossover here at this juncture. Helen.
Yeah, I really dislike this sort of thing in a play where somebody says, oh, look, here comes so-and-so. He is so humorous. We will really have a good laugh at him. Do you know what he is about to do? You'll never know. Won't that be a good jest? And then you describe what's going to happen, which means that it takes away all the joy of actually meeting a new character.
Explain the joke, set up the joke, allow the joke to be released.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the way I would play it. However,
Okay.
Chapman knows what he's doing, no doubt.
Well, the audiences of the at the times perhaps thought it was hilarious, so maybe we'll see. Eric.
Yeah, I was gonna say in defense of play, like usually kind of, I think this is more sort of like hinting towards what the actors should be doing rather than what telling the audience what's gonna happen. Kind of like when it's like, oh yes, I thrust and I parry and I do this and I do that, and it's like a lot of action words kind of, and you kind of expect that, this is what you're going to be doing. I'm not going to write any stage directions for you. I'm just going to expect you to know what to do based on, because it does say, he will fold his arms thus, you go and speak to him, and so on and so forth.
And of course, by setting up one, it may mean that they don't need to, having set up an example case that later in the play they don't do it as much. We shall see whether everybody gets explicated before they do their humour trick. Rachael, then Lalitte.
Yeah, to what Eric said, that they're lines that talk about shared actions. If somebody's like, let's go over here, it's saying it's coordinating. I mean, for fighting, I think you need a lot more coordination. If you're in an age when you're probably you don't have a fight coordinator, but even just, I guess, for something simple like crossing the stage, maybe so that they don't block each other, or they, know how to set themselves up.
Lalitte.
Yeah, I wanted somebody to remind me what the 4 humours were and what they stand for. I remember there's black bile, yellow bile, blood, and something else. And I wondered if it was relevant.
Phlegm, that was it.
That's the one you don't want to remember.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'll go to Lois. Do you want to?
Well, how much do you want to know about this?
Just a summary. I just kind of can't remember which is which.
Yeah,
Once upon a time.
Here. I'm assuming it's relative.
Well, I mean, there's supposed to be these 4 physical types. I mean, this corresponds in a way to this. I don't know if you ever heard of ectomorphs, mesomorphs, and endomorphs, but that was another one that was floating around at one point. It's just a way of trying to define personalities. If you're dominated by choler, which is the yellow bile, then you're choleric, and you're also hot and dry, and you're kind of burning up. If you're dominated by the sanguine humor, which on the whole is the best one to have, that's blood. That means you're probably red-faced, you like food and drink and sex, and your blood carries you along. That's what I think Labervele is worried about with his wife. If you're dominated by the melancholy humor, which is phlegm, that's the cold and dry one, then you're melancholy. It's something thought to possess scholars, and it's associated with Saturn. And you could be described as saturnine as well. And what was the other one?
Black bile.
Black bile. Oh, wait a minute. Black bile. The phlegm is phlegmatic. Sorry, if you're dominated by the phlegmatic humor, then this is what most women are supposed to have had. They were sort of crying all the time and liquid and dumpish, and they're wet and cold. Whereas the black bile or the spleen is the melancholy humor, which is cold and dry. So you get a combination of hot and cold and moist and dry, basically.
And the thing to remember that this is not a precise science by any stretch of the imagination, and the different playwrights will be doing different things with these ideas. And of course, we can go back to actual medical ideas that are moving towards balance of the humours in the body and how that, in theory, worked. Say different playwrights are doing slightly different things. That's why we didn't talk about this very much actually last time when we were looking at Every Man in His Humour. But yeah, I think the time we've mentioned fluid, so I think this play's given us an in on some level. But yeah, don't try and be too literal because it won't help. Probably. But maybe it will. Anyway, we've got the setup. Let's see if the gag is now hilarious. Enter Catalian and Blanuel.
See where he comes. Now, I must say, lupus est in fabula, for these Latin ends are part of a gentleman and a good scholar.
Oh, good morrow, Monsieur Lemot. Here is the gentleman you desired so much to be acquainted withal.
He is marvellous welcome. I shall be exceeding proud of your acquaintance.
I shall be exceeding proud of your acquaintance.
Well, I've heard much good of your rare parts and fine carriages.
I have heard much good of your rare parts and fine carriages.
I shall be glad to be commanded by you.
I shall be glad to be commanded by you.
Oh, I pray you do not say so.
Oh, I pray, do not you say so.
Well, gentlemen, this day let's consecrate to Mirth and Colinet. You know, no man better, that you are mightily in love with love by Martia, daughter to old Foyes.
I confess it. Here are none but friends.
Well, then, go to her this morning in Countess Morris's name, and so perhaps you may get her company, though the old churl be so jealous that he will suffer no man to come at her, but the vain girl Labesha for his living sake, and he, as yet, she will not be acquainted withal.
Well, this I'll do, whatsoever come on it.
Why, nothing but good will come of it, ne'er doubt it, man.
He has taken up his stand. Talk a little further and see if you can remove him.
I will, Catalian. Now, Monsieur Blanuel, mark, I pray.
I do, sir, very well, I warrant you.
You know the old Count Labervele hath her passing fair young lady, that is a passing foul Puritan.
Oh, I know her very well, sir. She goes more like a milkmaid than a countess, for all her youth and beauty.
True, sir, yet of her is the old count so jealous that he will suffer no man to come at her. Yet I will find a means that two of us will have access to her, though before his face, which shall show heat his jealous humour till he be stark mad. But Colinet, go you first to lovely Martia, for 'tis too soon for the old lord and his fair young lady to rise.
Adieu, Monsieur Blanuel.
Adieu, good Master Colinet.
And exit Colinet.
Monsieur Blanuel, your kindness in this will bind me much to you.
Monsieur Lemot, your kindness in this will bind me much to you.
I pray you do not say so, sir.
Oh, I pray you, do not say so, sir.
Will it please you to go in?
Oh, will it please you to go in?
I will follow you.
I will follow you.
It shall be yours.
It shall be yours.
Ah, kind Monsieur Blanuel.
Oh, kind Monsieur Lemot.
after you. Oh, no, after you. And then they both walk into the door at the same time and have to squeeze through or something along those lines. Yeah, it's that constant, the repeater is always going, oh, no, you are too kind. No, you.
Yeah.
No, you.
Yeah, you.
There's some fun stuff in that. We've got confirmation of the dramatis persona indication of being a Puritan for the Count's wife. So we're getting more detail. We got other people talking about people we haven't met yet, and others other little hints hidden within comedy business, little additional bits of exposition flying in there. Any additional thoughts now that we've the Helen, are you assuaged in your opinion of the structure of the scene?
Well, he goes. I mean, Lemot's done it again, hasn't he? He's given us the plot of the first 2 acts, which is very kind of him. But also, there's a fair degree of 2 people telling each other what the audience needs to know.
I don't know why I'm telling you this, but
yeah, right. I mean, it's fairly heavy on that. I rather like the idea that the Countess is being criticized for the simplicity of her dress. So, I mean, normally ladies were being criticized for the extravagance, but she's a countess, so she ought not to dress as simply as a milkmaid. It's interesting that. Well, it is to me anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, for something like this, which I'm assuming is going to be heading primarily down the comedy front, you don't want the audience wondering what the plot is. You want to just get it in there as early as possible. For all we know, there was a prologue at the beginning telling us the plot as well. I mean, and I don't have a problem with that. I like people to know where they are. Alan, then Lynn, and then Sascha.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is another one of these ones where it would be helpful if we had a few notes on who these 4 dudes are that we've just seen. Because at the moment, it just looks like they're random courtiers or gentlemen about town. But there's no placing for them as yet.
And that's something that the audience would discover a bit with costume, but we're trying to find out what data the text in terms of words is giving us so far. So that's a really good question. Who are they? What is everybody's status in relation to each other? It's always quite an important thing with this kind of play. Where are the status changes? Lynn, then Sascha, then I saw Eric, and then Helen again.
I'm interested in Blanuel and what kind of person is he supposed to be. I remember reading about an exercise in letter writing, and I think it was writing in your own language, writing in English, where you had to come up with 50 different ways of saying thank you for your letter. I mean, that was something that an educated person was supposed to be able to do, is to say the same thing many, many different ways. And the fact that Blanuel can only repeat verbatim what he hears, is that supposed to make us think that he's particularly foolish, that he's particularly limited intellectual capacity, the fact that he can't express the same sentiment but in slightly different language, because being able to do that was something that young boys were educated in.
Or or is it he just can't take the compliment of saying thank you very much and moving on? I mean, why is this particular repeated action in play? Sascha.
Well, I'm sure we'll find out the repetitiveness for later on. However, I have to wonder a little bit about Lemot's purpose in this as at the moment, because he seems to be, he's intriguing. He seems to be this sort of character who seems to like mocking people a lot, and he, it doesn't matter who's around him, he's got to be the center of attention. And on top of that, I'm just wondering whether he may have been a plot, a sort of ploy with the writer to actually speak out against the class system possibly at the time, but hiding behind that character, maybe.
Where is satire in play in here? Helen, was it Helen? Or was it Eric?
Eric first.
It was Eric, yes. Lots of
I was
hands.
gonna say that it's interesting because it's sort of like the whole Proverbs shtick, but like not, because obviously it's just repetition. And it feels like one of those acting games where it's like, in other plays we've seen this where there's a character going no, and then the other character goes no, and then the other character goes no, and the other character continues to go no. And it's just this entire dialogue of the same thing over and over again, but obviously spoken in different ways. And it's obviously setting something up there. I don't know. And also we've been told sort of info about like characters who are about to appear, like sort of an old man who's protecting his daughter from anyone except the vain Gallant.
Yeah, I really like the idea of this as an acting game. I think that there's the gameplay in this that actually that you could almost say, well, the actors, how many additions can you add to this scene? Is beyond what's scripted. Helen, then I saw Francis, Lois, and Rachael, I think.
I think that Blanuel, he's said to be an older man. I think that they are all, this little group, are all trying to be gentlemen in their different ways. But he is limited in his capacity, and he's a bit like a rabbit in the headlights, desperately repeating something on the grounds that obviously is the right thing to say. Lemot, I don't think, has quite made it. I mean, he says, I've got to drop a Latin tag in here because Latin tags are what a gentleman would do.
Mic drop.
Yeah. Now, if he was a gentleman, he wouldn't say, I'm going to do this because it's gentlemanlike behavior.
True.
Yeah. Francis.
Yeah, I thought my impression of Blanuel was that he was a younger man, because I think they mentioned at one point finding young gallants or something. So my impression of him was that he's a young, socially awkward man amongst some slightly older gentlemen. That was my take on it. The other thing about this scene is I just found it suddenly strange the way there was all this ribbing of Blanuel, and suddenly the conversation shifted to Catalian's going after Martia. It just seemed very abrupt, that shift in the conversation, and then they shifted back to the ribbing of Blanuel.
Yeah, I think the rabbit in headlights quality for Blanuel seems makes sense. I like that, and also that there's almost a cue in there that if Lemot etc. they're all laughing at Blanuel, actually almost openly, that Lemot changes the direction of the conversation. This day let's consecrate to mirth, is if everybody's laughing, it's like, oh no, we'll cover this laughter by saying, ha ha ha, let's talk about plot, about talking about our mirth kind of thing. I'm wondering if there's almost an implicit. You're right. It's a massive turn, and it's like they just park him, going, well, you've got nothing else to say, have you? Okay, let's talk amongst ourselves.
Right, yeah.
So there's lots of options there, but I think you're right. There are interesting chops and changes. Lois, then Alan.
Yeah, it's. The play is called A Humorous Day's Mirth, and this is going to be a day of mirth based on humors, I guess. And you can see where Johnson's picking this idea up. When we read Every Man in His Humor, it was a much more elaborate version of this. This is sort of three, as far as I can make out, three young men all having a good laugh at an idiot that one of the three young men has brought for the other two to observe. And presumably they're going to find other funny people to laugh at. In Johnson, it's much more complicated because one character gets an invitation to come and meet a couple of idiots, and he brings another idiot with him so they can all have fun over this. And then
it becomes an idiot party, whereas here
Yeah.
it's more an idiot progression.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, you can see what Ben Johnson picks this up and runs with it. Sorry, I meant to go to Rachael, then Alan. Sorry, I.
No, I was just gonna say the repeated lines. I think it's just that they're status chasers. They're doing whatever. The little bit that dips off into talking about somebody else's wife, I think structure-wise is a return of saying this is why this is necessary for the plot, or that they'll be involved in the plot. But I think it could be also a way of like, they're keeping up with the Jones type people or social climbers, and it doesn't hurt to have a little dirt on somebody else in case you ever need a favor from them that sucking up to them doesn't get.
Alan, then we will move on.
Yeah, I'm just wondering actually whether you've got social gradations here, and Blanuel is actually nouveau riche, and the others may be sort of younger sons of the already rich. So there is a certain amount of class war stuff going on here as well.
We will.
It's possible.
Yeah, we don't really have that much data yet, so let's continue accumulating that as we move to a new scene, scene 3, which is I'll ask Alan to read in Labesha, please, however it's spelt, and as the world opens up a little bit. So enter Foyes and Martia and Labesha. We can assume that the Foyes and Labesha are talking about Martia when they start.
Mourn, fair daughter, fall to your work of mind and make your body fit to embrace the body of this gentleman. 'Tis art. Happy are they, say I.
I protest, sir, you speak the best that I ever heard.
I pray, sir, take acquaintance of my daughter.
I do desire you of more acquaintance.
Why dost thou not say, yea, and I the same of you?
Everybody says.
Oh, you would be singular.
Single indeed.
Single indeed. That's a pretty toy. Your betters dame bear double and social you.
Exceeding pretty. Did you mark it forsooth?
What should I mark forsooth?
Your bearing double, which equivocate is, and hath a fit allusion to a horse that bears double. For your good father means you shall endure your single life no longer, not in worse sense than bearing double, forsooth.
I cry you mercy. You know both, belike.
Knowledge, forsooth, is like a horse, and you that can bear double, it nourisheth both bee and spider. The bee, honeysuckle, the spider, poison. I am that bee.
I thought so by your stinging wit.
Lady, I am a bee without a sting, no way hurting any, but good to all, and before all to your sweet self.
Afore God, daughter, thou art not so worthy to hear him speak. But who comes here?
Indeed, enter Colinet.
God save you, sir.
You are welcome, sir, for aught that I know yet.
I hope I shall be so still, sir.
What is your business, sir? And then I'll tell you.
Marry thus, sir. The Countess Moren entreats your fair daughter to bear her company this forenoon.
This forenoon, sir? Doth my lord or lady send for her, I pray?
My lady, I assure you.
My lady, you assure me. Very well, sir. Yet that house is full of gallant gentlemen, dangerous thorns to prick young maids, I tell you.
There are none but honest and honorable gentlemen.
All is one, sir, for that. I'll trust my daughter with any man, but no man with my daughter, only yourself. Master Bishop, whom I will entreat to be her guardian and bring her home again.
I will wait upon her, if it please you.
No, sir, your wait upon her will not be so good. Here, Monsieur Bishop, I will deliver my daughter unto you a perfect maid, and so I pray you look well unto her.
Farewell, Monsieur Foyes.
I warrant I'll look into a well enough mistress. Will it please you to perambulate?
With all my heart.
Will it please you to perambulate? That's a turn of phrase one should use more often in day-to-day life. Okay, it's Yeah, some interesting exchanges going on here. Yeah, how's the room taking that, as it were? Rachael, then Lois.
The Colinet coming in and saying that the Countess wants his daughter, to bear her company. And then right after, Foyes going, wait, who wants her? The Lord or the lady? Who is it? The limited vocabulary and then the stretching of vocabulary, that play of, I guess, with intellect and the classism of maybe not everybody having that equal education, and how people are trying to stretch beyond the means of their class, like Labesha saying perambulate instead of to walk. I'm assuming that's what that word means.
Yeah, yes, because he's trying quite hard and is quite trying by being quite trying. It's there's lots of little bits of wordplay going on, and things is he presumably trying to be vaguely wooey here, but not desperately impressive. Especially with the father standing there, being it's an awkward situation. You don't get the impression that Martia's very keen on anything. I like the single indeed as a reply is very nicely, and again, people using other people's words sort of back at them in different ways, and the playfulness of things. Lois, I think.
Yeah. Lemot suggested that Colinet go there and court Martia, and this has clearly been a rather unsuccessful expedition. I mean, he's gone out again because her father wouldn't let him escort her anywhere. I think when Labesha says to Martia, I do desire you of more acquaintance, there's probably a pause, and then Foyes is talking to Martia when he says, why dost thou not say, yea, and I the same of you? And then she says, oh, that everybody says, I'm not going to say that, but she's obviously terribly unkeen on this man that her father is introducing to her. And then I don't know quite why, we'll find out presumably if this is the one her father wants her to marry, or whether he just thinks this is a safe pair of hands that are going to keep to themselves, because he certainly worries about all the other men around here. And then I think that Foy's last line in that scene, surely that's the wrong punctuation, isn't it? Here, Mr. Bishop. I mean, surely it must be, if I deliver my daughter unto you, and she is a perfect maid, and so I pray you look well unto her, right?
Yes, there's a few little bits in throughout that's like that. It's like the exceeding pretty is a separate line to did you mark it forsooth, effectively, because it's that sort of that way the sentences are changing directions in terms of who they're talking to. There's a lot of that that needs tweaking. That whole idea of father nudging daughter to say something polite to this chap who I'd like you to marry. Sascha, then Alan.
Yeah, I mean, it is more than just an awkward situation. I mean, we're dealing with a father who clearly wants to see his daughter wed, but at the same time, his behavior confuses me. He's that overprotective father figure who knows he needs to let his daughter go, but yet he can't. I mean, the fact that he can't and he won't let anybody else apart from what he chooses is just quite, I mean, it's typical of the times, but I do feel sorry though for the poor gentleman trying to progress, to be honest. Be interested to see how this develops though, and whether the girl in question is a rebel deep down.
Does definitely feel like it. So at present, I don't see any of these plans coming quite to fruition yet. Francis.
Yeah.
Sorry. It was Alan. Sorry, then
Alan
Francis.
first.
Yeah. I mean, from what we've had, and I did get confused because when I see a name ending in A, I almost automatically assume it's an Italian form and therefore female, which is why I got one or two of the bits of interpretation, I think, earlier on slightly wrong. But I think Labesha is probably somewhat older than Colinet, probably rather prosaic, and is perceived as being a safe pair of hands in more ways than one. by the father.
Francis.
Yeah, I was going to say more or less the same thing, that Labesha feels like that stock character, the stiff upper class guy who's supposed to marry the leading lady, but there's someone a bit more raffish on the sidelines.
Any more from anyone? Lynn, then we'll move on. Oh no, then Eric, then we'll move on.
I actually think Martia is kind of interesting. She's quite taciturn. None of her lines are very long, and she doesn't have a lot of them. But I think a good actress could do a lot with those few words. You know, single indeed. There's like how much English was put on that. Oh, I thought so by your stinging wit. And even, oh, with all my heart, somebody who was good and had the right stage presence could do a lot of damage with those short little lines.
Yeah. Eric.
I was gonna say that she reminds me a bit of like sort of maybe like a more subtle version of Chris Spinella that we saw last week. Who was like, yes, sex, women, let's free ourselves, and it's sort of from the burden of men. Whereas, Martia seems to be kind of I don't know, just ready to get out of the house because she's been stuck with this old man for so long. I don't know.
Okay, we're going to go to Helen very briefly.
No, is this a genuine invitation? Is this something invented that the Countess wants her company?
Question.
Or is it real? Do we know yet?
Colinet, go you first, lovely Martia, for us to. I don't know whether it's a happy coincidence or whether that's. I don't think it was stated that was the specific. That this specific thing is part of the plan, or whether it's just they're going to incorporate it into their plan.
Uh-huh.
I think it's an excellent question, but I don't know if the text has stated that. Rachael, you're waving.
I think actually that's what's happening here is perhaps it is a counterfeit invitation, and that's why I was confused with Foyes saying, "Doth my lord or lady send for her, I pray." I think he's saying, so is it really the Countess, or is it you who wants to take her out? And he's saying the lady, and he's like, okay, so you're telling me the lady, but that house has a bunch of men in it. And then Colinet is saying, I think subtextually, I'm an honorable gentleman. And that's why there's that play on the words, wait upon her your weight upon her will not be so good. Is that the father knows he's got an interest in his daughter, and he's telling him to, don't come out here telling me untruthfully where you're going to be going and what you're going to be doing, because that doesn't sound honest to me.
Yeah, I mean, Foyes clearly does not trust any young man in any context, and especially that question of what if she goes to the Countess, what are her surroundings going to be, and he's making that very, very clear. So yeah, he doesn't trust him at all, does he? He doesn't trust any young man, probably wisely. Let's go to scene 4. Alan shifting back. I think it's the aspect for Florilla, who we do actually have. It's just entrance of the Puritan. So enter Puritan.
I done. Put on too many clothes. Day is hot, and I am hotter clad than might suffice health. My conscience tells me that I have offended, and I'll put them off. That will ask time that might be better spent. One sin will draw another quickly so. See how the devil tempts. But what's here? Chores? How should these come here?
Enter Labervele.
Good morrow, lovely wife. What hast thou there?
Jewels, my lord, which here I strangely found.
That's strange indeed. What, where none comes but when yourself is here? Surely the heavens have rained thee jewels for thy holy life, and using thy old husband lovingly, or else do fairies haunt this holy green, as evermore mine ancestors have thought.
Fairies were but in times of ignorance, not since the true pure light have been revealed, and that they come from heaven, I scarce believe. For jewels are vain things. Much gold is given for such fantastical and fruitless jewels, and therefore heaven, I know, will not maintain the use of vanity. Surely I fear I have much sin to stoop and take them up, bowing my body to an idle work. The strength that I've had to this very deed might have been used to take a poor soul up in the highway.
You are too curious, wife. Behold your jewels. What? Methinks there's posies written on them. Despair not of children, love with the longest, when man is at the weakest, God is at the strongest. Wonderful, rare and witty, nay, divine. Why, this is heavenly comfort for thee, wife. What is this other? God will reward thee 1,000-fold, that takes what age can, and not what age would. The best that ever I had. No mortal brain, I think, did ever utter such conceit, for good plain matter, and for honest rhyme.
Vain poetry, I pray you burn them, sir.
You are to blame, wife. Heaven hath sent you them to deck yourself withal, like to yourself, not go thus like a milkmaid. Why, there is difference in all estates by all religion.
There is no difference.
I prithee, wife, be of another mind, and wear these jewels, and a velvet hood.
A velvet hood? Oh, vain devilish device. A toy made with a superfluous flap, which being cut off, my head was still as warm. Diogenes did cast away his dish, because his hand would serve to help him drink. Surely these heathens shall rise up against us.
Sure, wife, I think thy keeping always close makes thee melancholy is the... Sure, wife, I think thy keeping always close, making thee melancholy, is the cause we have no children, and therefore, if thou wilt, be merry and keep company a God's name.
Sure, my lord, if I thought I should be rid of this same banishment of barrenness, and use our marriage to the end it was made, which was for procreation, I should sin, if by my keeping house I should neglect the lawful means to be a fruitful mother. And therefore, if it please you, I'll use resort.
God's passion, what have I done? Who would have thought her pureness would yield so soon to courses of temptations? Nay, hark you, wife, I am not sure that going abroad will cause fruitfulness in you. That you know, none knows but God himself.
I know, my lord, 'tis true, but the lawful means must still be used.
Yea, the lawful means indeed must still, but now I remember that lawful means is not abroad.
Well, I'll keep the house still.
Nay, hark you, lady, I would not have you think. Marry, I must tell you this, if you should change the manner of your life, the world would think you changed religion too.
'Tis true, I will not go.
Nay, if you have a fancy.
Yea, a fancy, but that's no matter.
Indeed, fancies are not for judicial and religious women.
Enter Catalian like a scholar.
God save your lordship and you, most religious lady.
Sir, you may say God save us well indeed, that thus are thrust upon in private walks.
A slender thrust, sir, where I touched you not.
Well, sir, what is your business?
Why, sir, I have a message to my lady from Monsieur de Bartas.
To your lady? Well, sir, speak your mind to your lady.
You are very welcome, sir, and I pray, how doth he?
In health, madam, thanks be to God, commending his duty to your ladyship, and hath sent you a message which I would desire your honour to hear in private.
My ladyship and my honour? They be words which I must have you leave. They be idle words. You shall answer for them truly. My duty to you, or I desire you, were a great deal better than my ladyship or my honour.
I thank you for your Christian admonition.
Nay, thank God for me. Come, I will hear your all my heart, and you are very welcome, sir.
With all my heart, and you are very welcome, sir. And go and talk with a young lusty fellow, make a man's hair stand upright on his head. What leer in this, trow you? Ha! What wench of the faculty could have been more forward? Well, sir, I will know your message. You, sir, what says the holy man, sir? Come, tell true, for by heaven or hell, I will have it out.
Why, you shall, sir, if you be so desirous.
Nay, sir, I am more than so desirous. Come, sir, study not for a new device now.
Not I, my lord. This is both new and old. I am a scholar, and being spiritually inclined by your lady's most godly life, I am to profess the ministry, and to become her chaplain, to which end Monsieur de Bartas has commended me.
Her chaplain in the devil's name, fit to be vicar of hell.
My good head, what are you afraid of? He comes with a godly and neighbourly suit. What, think you his words or his looks can tempt me? Have you so little faith? If every word he spake were a serpent as subtle as that which tempted Eve, he cannot tempt me, I warrant you.
Well answered for him, lady, by my faith. Well, hark you, I'll keep your chaplain's place yonder for a while, and at length put in one myself.
Enter Lemot.
What, more yet? God's my passion, whom do I see? The very imp of desolation, the minion of our king, whom no man sees to enter his house, but he locks up his wife, his children, his maids. For where he goes, he carries his house upon his head like a snail. Now, sir, I hope your business is to me.
No, sir, I must crave a word with my lady.
These words are intolerable, and she shall hear no more.
She must hear me speak.
Must she, sir? Have you brought the king's warrant for it?
I have brought that which is above kings.
Why, every man for her sake is a Puritan. The devil, I think, will shortly turn Puritan, or the Puritan will turn devil.
What have you brought, sir?
Marry this, madam. You know we ought to prove one another's constancy, and I am come in all chaste and honourable sort to prove your constancy.
You are very welcome, sir, and I will abide your proof. It's my duty to abide your proof.
You'll bide his proof. It is your duty to bide his proof. How the devil will you bide his proof?
My good head, no otherwise than before your face, in all honourable and religious sort. I tell you, I am constant to you, and he comes to try whether I be so or no, which I must endure. Begin your proof, sir.
Nay, madam, not in your husband's hearing, though in his sight, for there is no woman will show she is tempted from her constancy, though she be a little. Withdraw yourself, sweet lady.
And so they withdraw so that they're still in the same room, but they cannot necessarily be overheard.
Well, I will see, though I do not hear. Women may be courted without offence, so they resist the courtier.
Dear and most beautiful lady, of all the sweet, honest, and honourable means to prove the purity of a lady's constancy, kisses are the strongest. I will therefore be bold to begin my proof with a kiss.
No, sir, no kissing.
No kissing, madam. How shall I prove you then sufficiently, not using the most sufficient proof? To flatter yourself by affection of spirit when it is not perfectly tried is sin.
You say well, sir. That which is truth is truth.
Then you do well, lady, and yield to the truth.
By your leave, sir, my husband sees. Peradventure it may breed an offence to him.
How can it breed an offence to your husband to see your constancy perfectly tried?
You're an odd man, I see. But first, I pray, tell me how kissing is the best proof of chaste ladies.
To give you a reason, for that you must give me leave to be obscure and philosophical.
I pray you be. I love philosophy well.
Then thus, madam, every kiss is made, as the voice is, by imagination and appetite, and as both those are presented to the ear and the voice, so are they to the silent spirits in our kisses.
To what spirit mean you?
The spirits of our blood.
What if it do?
Why then, my imagination and thine appetite working upon your ears in my voice, and upon your spirits and my kisses, piercing therein the more deeply, they give the stronger assault against your constancy.
Why then to say, prove my constancy, is as much as to say, kiss me.
Most true, rare lady.
Then prove my constancy.
Believe me, madam, you gather exceeding wittily upon it.
And kissing ensues.
Mwah.
Oh, my forehead! My very heart aches at a blow. What dost thou mean, wife? Thou wilt lose thy fame, discredit thy religion, dishonour me forever.
Away, sir. I will abide no more of your proof, nor endure any more of your trial.
Oh, she dares not. She dares not. I am as glad as I have tried your purity as may be. You the most constant lady in France? I know 100 ladies in this town that will dance, revel all night amongst gallants, and in the morning go to bed to her husband as clear as a woman, as if she were new christened, kiss him, embrace him, and say, "No, no, husband, thou art the man," and he takes her for the woman.
And all this can I do?
Take heed of it, wife.
Fear not, my good head. I warrant you for him.
Nay, madam, triumph not before the victory. How can you conquer that against which you never strive, or strive against that which never encounters you? To live idle in this walk, to enjoy this company, to wear this habit, and have no more delights than those will afford you, is to make virtue an idle housewife, and to hide herself in slothful cobwebs that still should be adorned with actions of victory. No, madam, if you will worthily prove your constancy to your husband, you must put on rich apparel, fare daintily, hear music, read sonnets, be continually courted, kiss, dance, feast, revel all night amongst gallants. Then, if you come to your bed to your husband with a clear mind and a clear body, then are your virtues ipsissima. Then, if you pass the full test of experiment, and you shall have 100 gallants fight thus far in blood for the defence of your reputation.
Oh, vanity of vanities!
Oh, husband, this is a perfect trial indeed.
And you will try all this now, will you not?
Yea, my good head, for it is written, we must pass to perfection through all temptation. Habakkuk the 4th.
Habakkuk. Cuck me no cucks. Inner doors, I say. Thieves, Puritans, murderers. Inner doors, I say.
And he exits with Florilla leaving Lemot.
So now he is stark mad, i'faith. But, sirrah, as this is an old lord jealous of his young wife, so is ancient Countess Moren jealous of her young husband. We'll live to have some sport, i'faith.
And exits with Catalian, who, yes, was still in that scene, even though didn't say anything for absolutely ages. But yeah, in theory, still in the room. And yes, setting up another plot strand or reiterating a plot strand there with the closing lines. There's a lot going on. I mean, this is in this place so far, the longest scene we've had. It's quite chunky. There's quite a lot going on. We finally meet Florilla. Labervele overplays his hand at the beginning of just going, see the jewel. Oh, no, no, look, it's got some stuff written on it. Yeah, look. It's really good, isn't it? And it's just so overplayed that. And yeah, immediately just goes, no, get rid of it, destroy them. But yeah, there's something quite disturbing about what actually goes on here, because in a sense he's sort of going, I want you to be more like this. And then when the moment she says, "Oh, okay," he goes, "Oh shit, no, I didn't mean it. No, that's too." And so the sort of controlling stuff he's sort of doing here is really quite dodgy. Before we get to the various people coming in to the household to sort of test the situation. Thoughts on the room? I've been rattling on. Lynn, then Eric, then Rachael.
Just a question, really. I mean, what is it that Labervele wants? What's he trying to manipulate his wife into doing? I don't actually follow. What's the poetry on the agate supposed to persuade her to do?
Yeah, there's lots of thoughts. Anyone want to leap onto that question? I'll go to Helen and then others. Yes.
He wants her to be more normal.
Normal?
Well, you know what I mean. Her humor is excessive religiosity. And he wants her not to be, but on the other hand, only a little bit. He wants her to be just a little bit less religious, but not irreligious, if you see what I mean.
Okay.
And he wants to micromanage it, but he's not good at it.
Well,
also, I think I mean, obviously there are jewels. It's not just pieces of paper, but as something is going to be burnt, I think they are jewels wrapped in pieces of paper with the message on them.
And we got things about Velvet Hood, so it's almost like saying, look, be prettier, but only for me. Could be another way of reading it. That may be unfair on the text. Lalitte, did you want to leave?
I think it's this extreme neurosis where he wants to test her and for her to pass the test. So, because if and so he's actually got the same mindset as the guy who's as Lemot, that if you don't actually put yourself in the way of temptation, you don't know if you can resist it. So I think it's like he wants to double check that she's really, really, really only in love with him and nobody else. And the way to do it is to kind of, for her to prove herself by being tempted, but then saying no. And that's how I was reading his sort of strategy, as far as there is one.
I'll go to Francis, Sascha, then Lois, and then I'll get back to wherever we were going earlier.
I think to a certain extent he wants a trophy wife. I mean, he's married this young thing, and she's staying at home dressed as a milkmaid. I think he just wants to show her off a bit more. But as people have said, he's micromanaging the process. I mean, he doesn't want, he doesn't want her running off with some younger man.
But she is also very excessive. I mean, that opening speech, going, "I've put on too many clothes. Oh no, it's unhealthy. I'm going to faint. I'm suffocating in them." But then, oh no, to spend more time on getting dressed would be sinful. And yeah, so there's excess coming from all sorts of different directions here as well. Sascha.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, can I just say, normal? What's normal? Does it even exist? But,
obviously.
No, clearly not. But I'm just going to say this is clearly, the way I'm reading it as well, it looks like sort of a follow-on in a way. It's not just the whole trophy wife thing going on, but it's also the whole thing with, again, challenging the system. Lemot's clearly got an underhand plan going on here? You know, I mean, he says in that last little section, you know, he's clearly mad. You know, he's clearly got the green-eyed monster going on. Ooh, let's work with this a little bit more. You know, it's almost it's weird though. I still trying to work out though whether Lemot is actually in a way got the green-eyed jealousy monster himself, if he is that social climber, whether he wants what these people have, if that makes sense. Like he'll do anything to try and manipulate the situation to get it.
Lois next, and then lots of hands. Muted at present.
Yeah, I read Labervele sort of back through Florilla, who I think is Johnson's development of the character. That is somebody who is jealous of his wife, but keeps going back and forth, you know, not knowing exactly what he wants, saying one thing and then taking it back and so on. And I think the point of those rhymes, though again, he doesn't exactly make this clear, is that she should just be patient and hope that God will send her a child, as opposed to what I think he's really scared of, going abroad, meeting some nice young man and getting pregnant by them, because she has this religious feeling that marriage is for procreation, and she's beginning to feel guilty. I mean, one thing I like about Florilla is that in some ways she's really kind of the typical ultra conscientious wife of today. I mean, I better wash all these things before I put them in the recycling. Oh, but now I'm wasting water. Oh dear, what should I do? You know, it's the same sort of thing. And you know, Lemot is having fun with that. As far as I can see, Lemot just wants to enjoy feeling superior to all these people.
Yeah, and it's a very clear. I like the test logic here. You know, of I will test you with temptation and kiss you literally in front of your husband. You know, and have a witty reason for why that's fine. Eric, then Rachael, then Alan. I think I'm back to where it so vaguely was.
See, I read Lemot or whatever his name is as a sort of vice figure, sort of like Merry Greek, but like a later incarnation where it's like, ooh, we can play with many people now. It kind of comes across like that, and sort of has the agenda of upsetting everyone in some way or other.
And of course, there's more than one person ingratiating their way into this household, because Catalian as well doing some disguising, so to get into the household too. Rachael, then Alan.
Yeah, Labervele's flip-flopping on these jewels and her being seen. I think what Francis said about the trophy wife thing makes a lot of sense. Like, he wants her to put these things on because her wearing the jewelry, you know, how there's those other scenes with the status chasing, that if she's wearing these jewels, it showcases his status, that he can afford this for his wife, also while giving her these subtle messages of how he wants their marriage to be. And then in the middle of it, Lemot comes in, and then, you know, scares him, because here he is kissing his wife in front of him without fear. And then he's like, he takes he seems to flip on it, and there's like a reverse between him and his wife's character, who his wife seems pretty conservative at the beginning, and then she kisses somebody else and is getting tempted to go spend all night with other people. And so I don't know, maybe it's like this, the scene is just using this flip-flop of character to create comedy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way Lemot is able to spin this by going, "Hi, you've passed the first test of being snogged. Now let's go reveling all night and see if you pass that test." It's just, I mean, the question for the actor for Florilla is how play-acty is, "Away, sir, I will abide no more of your proof nor endure any more of your trial." How sincere is that line of dialogue? Alan?
On that point, I think she is genuinely outraged. What got me was I don't see the point of the earlier entrance and dialogue with Catalian, because that just doesn't seem to actually go anywhere, because the whole scene goes basically the Lemot, story. So I'm not even sure why those few lines at the top involving Catalian are actually there. They don't seem to be doing anything much.
I think it's establishing him in the household because getting him so that presumably the Lemot effectively has 2 lines of attack or a rival, depending on how that the logic works. We will see if that is resolved further on, but I don't think it's just for the sake of another scene within this. I think we shall see. We have scene 5 left to do this session. So this is where lots of people are now on stage simultaneously as we introduce some more people who have been vaguely mentioned, but I don't think we've properly been introduced to. So Alan once again swaps roles. Enter Labesha, hanging upon Martia's sleeve, and the Lord Moren comes to them.
I prithee, Besha, keep a little off. Hang not upon her shoulders thus for shame.
My lord, pardonnez-moi. I must not talk alone with anyone, for her father gave me charge.
Oh, you are a goodly charter for a goose.
A goose? You are a gander to call me goose. I'm a Christian gentleman as well as you.
Well, sir, get you hence, or by my troth I'll have thee taken out in a blanket, tossed from forth our hearing.
In a blanket? What, do you make a puppy of me? By skies and stones, I will go and tell your lady.
Exit Labesha.
Nay, but Besha.
Nay, he will tell, my lord.
Enter the Countess, Moren, and Labesha.
Why, how now, my lord? What, thought you I was dead, that you are wooing of another thus? Are you laying plots to work my death?
Why, neither, sweet bird. What need you move these questions unto me, whom you know loves you above all the other women in the world?
How can he flatter now he hath made a fault?
He can do little, and he cannot cog.
Out, you ass!
Well, come, tell me what you did entreat.
Nothing, by heaven's sweet bird, I swear, but to entreat her love.
But to entreat her love?
Nay, hear me out.
Nay, you are out. You are too much, methinks, and you put me in.
And put you in?
In a fair taking, sir, I mean.
Oh, you may see what hasty taking is. You women ever more scramble for our words and never take them mannerly from our mouths.
Come, tell me what you did entreat.
I did entreat her love to Colinet.
To Colinet? Oh, here's your dear cousin, and your kind heart, i' faith, is never well but when you are doing good for every man. Speak, do you love me?
I' faith, sweet bird.
Best of all the others.
Best of all others.
That's good, my bird, in faith.
Oh, mistress, will you love me so?
No, by my troth will I not.
No, by my troth will I not. Why, that's well said. I could never get her to flatter me yet.
Enter Lemot, Blanuel, and Catalian, and Colinet.
Good morrow, my good lord, and these passing lovely ladies.
So now we shall have all manner of flattering with Monsieur Lemot.
You are all manner of ways deceived, madam, for I am so far from flattering you that I do not a whit praise you.
Why do you call us passing lovely, then?
Because you are passing from your loveliness.
Madame, we shall not have one mot of Monsieur Lemot, but it shall be, as it were, a moat to drown all our conceit and admiration.
Ah, see what a moat her quick eye can spy in mine before she looks in it.
So moat I thee. Thine answer is as good as moat be.
Ah, here's a poor name run out of breath.
Why, Monsieur Lemot, your name is run out of breath at every word you speak.
That's because my name signifies word.
Well hit, Monsieur Verbum.
What? Are you good at Latin, lady?
No, sir, but I know what verbum is.
Why, 'tis green bum. Ver is green. And you know what bum is, I can assure of that.
No, sir, 'tis a verb, and I can decline you.
That you can, I'll be sworn.
What can I do?
Decline me, or take me a hole lower, as the proverb is.
Nay, sir, I mean plain grammatical declination.
Well, let's hear your scholarship, and decline me.
I will, sir. Moto, motas.
Oh, excellent. She hath called him ass in Latin.
Well, sir, forward.
Nay, there's enough to try both our scholarships.
Moto motus. Nay, faith. Forward to motavi or motandi.
Nay, sir, I'll leave when I am well.
Why, Monsieur Lemot, your name being in word general is in ninny or in hammer or in cock or in buzzard.
Or in wagtail, or in woodcock, or in dotterel, or in dizzard.
Or in clot, or in head, or in cow, or in baby.
Or in malkin, or in trash, or in pap, or in lady.
Or indeed in everything.
Why then 'tis in thing?
Then, good monsieur thing, there let it rest.
Then above all things, I must have a word with you.
Hands off, sir. She is not for your mowing.
She is for your mocking.
And she mock me, I'll tell her father.
That's a good child. Thou smellest of the mother, and she was a fool, I warrant you.
Meddle with me, but do not meddle with my mother.
That's a good child. Come, I needs must have a word with you.
You shall do none of your needs with her, sir.
What will you do?
What will I do? You shall see what I do.
And then he offers to draw.
Go to, you ass. Offer to draw here, and we'll draw thee out of the house by the heels.
What, 3 against 1? Now was ever proper hard-favoured gentleman so abused? Go to. Mistress Martia, I see you well enough. Are you not ashamed to stand talking alone with such a one as he?
How, sir? With such a one as I, sir?
Yea, sir, with such a one as you, sir.
Why? What am I?
What are you, sir? Why, I know you well enough.
Sirrah, tell me what you know me for, or else, by heaven, I'll make thee better thou hadst never known how to speak.
Why, sir, if you needs will know, I know you for an honourable gentleman and the king's minion. Were it not to you, there's ne'er a gentleman in Paris should have had her out of my hands.
Nay, he's as tall a gentleman of his hands as any in Paris.
There's a favor for you, sir.
But I can get no favour for you, sir.
I pray, my lord, entreat for your cousin Colinet.
Alas, man, I dare not for my wife.
Why, my lord, she thinks it is for nothing but to speak for your cousin.
I pray you, bird, give me leave to speak for my cousin.
I am content for him.
Then one word with you more, courteous Lady Martia.
Not an you were my father.
Gentlemen, for God's sake, thrust this ass out of the doors.
Nay, by a lady, he'll run home and tell her father.
Well, go to her. I warrant he shall not trouble you. Kind gentleman, how we dote on thee. Embrace him, gentlemen.
Oh, sweet Labesha, how we honour thee.
Nay, gentlemen, look what a piercing eye he hath.
An eye? I have an eye, and it were a polecat.
Nay, look what a nose he hath.
My nose is nicked crimson.
Nay, look what a handsome man he is. Oh, nature, nature, thou never madest a man of so pure a feature.
Truly, truly, gentlemen, I do not deserve this kindness.
Oh, Lord, sir, you are too modest. Come, shall we walk?
Whither? To the alehouse?
Hark you, madam! Have you no more care of the right of your husband than to let him talk thus affectionately with another?
Why, he speaks not for himself, but for his cousin Colinet.
God's my life, he tells you so. Nay, and these excuses may serve. I have done.
By the mass, now I observe him, he looks very suspiciously indeed. Ne'er trust me if his looks and his gesture do not plainly show himself to swear, by this light I do love thee.
Fair lady, madam, you guess shrewdly indeed. But hark you, madam, I pray, let not me be the author of discord between my good lord and you.
No, no, Monsieur Lemot, I were blind if I could not see this. I'll slit her nose, by Jesus.
And we confer runs at Moren here.
How now? What's the matter?
What's the matter? If I could come at your mistress, she should know what's the matter.
My mistress?
Yeah, your mistress. Oh, here's fair dissimulation. Oh, you imprudent gossip. Do I send for you to my house to make you my companion? And do you use me thus? Little dost thou know what 'tis to love a man truly, for if thou didst, thou wouldst be ashamed to wrong me so.
You wrong me, madame, to say I wrong you.
Go to, get it out of my house.
I am gone, madame.
Well, come in, sweet bird, and I'll persuade thee that there's no harm done.
Well, we shall hear your persuasions.
And exit the Countess and her husband.
Well, God knows, and I can partly guess what to persuade her. Well, take your fair charge, fair and manly lord, Monsieur Labesha.
One word with you more, fair lady.
Not a word. No man on pain of death. Not a word. He comes upon my rapier's point that comes within 40 foot on her.
Thanks, good Lemot, and thanks, gentlemen all, and her father shall thank you.
And exit Labesha and Martia.
Much good do it you, sir. Come, gentlemen, let's go wait upon the king and see the humour of the young Lord Dousaker.
Excuse me to the king, and tell him I will meet him there.
And everyone exits apart from Lemot.
So this is but the beginning of sport between this fine lord and his old lady. But this wench, Martia, hath happy stars reigned at the disposition of her beauty, for the king himself doth mightily dote on her. Now to my Puritan, and see if I can make up my full proof on her.
Exit, and we've got mention of a king. There's a king somewhere. We're starting to build some social layers, even if that's quite high up. There's a lot going on in this scene, some of which is not wholly clear as to sort of the flow of it, or at least wasn't to me, but I think in staging would be perfectly clear. I think it's just the reading in the room. But I just wanted to start on the relationship between the Countess and her husband, which is it's a thing. Yes, dear. No, everything's fine. They have form. I feel in this argument. I feel that this kind of argument happens a lot in their life. But I could be wrong on that. Lots of stuff going on here. Some real puns. There are three rules of comedy: no puns, no puns, and no puns. And by God, do they just trample through that. There's some really nice gags in there. Some really clever gags that you might not get all of, but you're getting the general direction it goes in. And then every so often someone says bum, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the bum.
I did like the bum gag. I thought that was very nice done. So yeah, there's a lot going on here. There's lots of bits of incident. It's also a busy scene. A lot of people come on, and it's easy to lose track of who they are and why they're doing things. Lovely lists of insults, and again, constant repetition. People are constantly picking up the other person's speech and playing it back at them, or using it against them, or tweaking it. Which is fascinating. It's a constant play in this play, as it were. Alan, and then other people from the room.
I get the impression that this a lot of that scene would be played to the groundlings, because there's quite a number of they're almost double entendre, but there's plenty of coarse humour you could get out of that particularly if you put a bit of physicality into the thing as well. You know, and you've got Lemot, who is obviously the sort of the gang leader and the most showy off of them, and his 3-4 henchmen who I think follow his example.
Lois, and then Eric.
Yes. I find it fascinating. I mean, Lemot or Lemot means the word, and they bring every possible change on that. You wouldn't have believed there were so many things you could make moat mean. But also, it does make me wonder if that's his function in the play, is mainly just to be words, you know, to use words to make things happen, which is all he seems to want to do, is to stir up as much trouble as possible.
Yes, I've got shit stirrer just marked in my script here, just going, yes, setting up that little moment there. Eric, then Sascha.
I was going to say that it's interesting how Moren like aligns, like he agrees with all the other guys that, you know, Labesha is basically an ass and wants him thrown out, but like he can't stand up to his wife. It's very much yes, yeah, I'm coming, dear. Yes, I didn't say anything, like nothing sweet, anything. No, no, it's all innocent talk. Yeah, it's not for me, it's for him. It's very interesting, sort of, and all the crosstalk, especially when like you get the scene with what's it called, when all of them are on stage flattering Labesha, and sort of it seems to be implied that Moren has moments of talk with Martia or Martia, and like while they're talking, the other three are flattering Labesha to distract him from what's going on, it seems. And then obviously it's like physicality is important and stuff that as we've talked about, and it kind of doesn't come across just by reading it, but it seems to be that's what's going on.
There's a lot going on in this sort of, it's not a party per se, but soiree, as they're all sort of sauntering by, so that, where dialogue is pointed, who's following precisely what bit. Of the offer of violence, do not meddle with my mother. You can say what you like about me. You do not insult my mother. Draw sword. Such a nice moment. Sascha.
I'm just going to reiterate. Yeah, I'm sorry. It is that whole role reversal thing. It's brilliant. I mean, talk about being a husband being henpecked. I mean, that's just a clear example of it right there. It's cleverly written. And what I particularly loved about this scene is the wordplay, because, you know, we know Lemot is very, or Lemot, however you care to pronounce it, he's very much the word, or a wannabe wordsmith. But I just love the way that the whole difference between the intellect somebody is used, where somebody uses the Latin against him. Effectively, she's calling him an ass, but God, he doesn't even take it. He doesn't even properly seem to register it. I just love that setup. And on top of that, you've just got so many role reversals in this scene. You can clearly tell he's bored, really, can't you? I mean, and I will agree he's a shit stirrer, but the fact that he's the king's minion, interesting.
Yeah, and this, I think, the first time that we've gone that far up of the social ladder. Rachael, and then Eric.
No, I was gonna say about the sort of relationship foil the Countess and the Count Moren give to the other Countess couple, because you could play the young Count as being very genuinely in love with her, with the sweet bird, no, like type thing, like, and have it like that, and have there could be a moment where they go off into this overly lovey-dovey stuff that's I don't know, like I don't know, when you see people who are just doing that in public and you're like, oh, okay. Like they're just over the top in love, that could bring out some humor some more humor to the scene, because they're just a stupid couple.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of play there, and I think there's a lot of fun to be had with them. I mean, the nice thing about this kind of humour setup is it does give you, character types that you can play with, and you can throw at an actor, and you can do, little exercises and games to sort of elaborate on, so long as it doesn't, as long as the text pushes you in that right direction, which so far it seems to be doing. Eric.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's interesting how we've had mentioned that Lemot is the king's minion, but like that sort of I'll tell you. Labesha has this moment of like, I'll tell you what I think of you. I think you're the most honorable gentleman I know, and it's like it's almost like he can't come up with an insult, which is quite an interesting element. Yeah.
What's actually meant by the king's minion? I mean, what sort of status?
He's in the in crowd.
Right. Okay.
Favorite.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
Or
it
in
does
the
make
circle of.
and it does make you wonder whether he's actually becoming too comfortable, maybe thinking he could use that as a bit of a vice for him, maybe.
Because I mean that return is a really interesting thing from Labesha, is because they're sort of mid flow of this argument. You sir, me sir, what sir, who am I? Kind of stuff. And I know you for an honourable gentleman and the king's minion. And it's sort of is that sort of is he using minion there derogatorily, as it clearly is in other plays, or whether he's sort of suddenly pulling back? It's an interesting phrasing at that point. Lois, then Alan.
Yeah, let's see. I think it was in this play is about less than 10 years, I think, after the murder of Henry III of France, who definitely had minions, lots and lots of them, and that they were quite well known. I mean, as minions. I don't know whether there's any sort of reference here, given that it's set in France.
Well, that's a thought. Alan.
Yeah, I must admit, I found the way to get into the bit I was doing was the sir is becoming more and more emphasised and formal as an attempted put down without breaching the rules of manners.
Yeah,
the word may sound respectful, but the intonation certainly ain't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Even
though it's the king's minion, that might not be a good thing. If he's a flatterer, if he's a caterpillar, if that's what minion is meant to imply, that's not a good thing. That's not a compliment.
You're a jumped up little so-and-so.
So we not only have mentioned the king, we also have the and we get the word humour again. We're going to see the humour of the young Lord Dowcester.
One more nutcase.
Yeah, someone else. That's something to look forward to next time. We get to meet a king and somebody else who's definitely got some humours bobbing about. Helen.
Yes, Blanuel, who doesn't do much in this scene, nevertheless makes some interventions which show him to be a thoroughly sensible and good chap, despite being possibly a little limited.
Yes, there doesn't seem to be any malice in in Blanuel, is there?
No.
Eric.
I was wondering if minion here was more like sort of like what Galveston was to in other plays compared to like in this play.
Yeah.
Gaveston, do you mean?
Yeah, sorry.
Galveston's the song.
Yes, sorry.
Once you get that in your head during a production of Edward II, you're screwed. Anyway, we are approaching final thoughts. Any additional thoughts on this scene before we open the floodgates for the play so far overall? Lynn?
I kind of want to go back to the word humorous, because my understanding is that in this period, humorous doesn't have actually anything to do with amusement or being funny. If something was amusing, it was pleasant. You're being pleasant with me, you're being funny with me. So, the pun that seems to be there, humor and mirth, I think maybe isn't there. Are other people who are the scholars in the room? Discuss.
I concur.
Yes, broadly speaking, yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that's what the title, or one of the titles of this this play is doing with the word humor, humorous rather. Lois.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically right. And I think when we get to every man out of his humor, somebody will give another definition of a humor, which I think it goes from this notion of things that flow in the body. And it's the idea that something kind of draws everything about you in one direction so that, you know, you're a type and it's very easy to describe you. But I suppose it's also come to have this meaning. I think it really started meaning this in the 18th century when people start contrasting wit and humor. And you know, wit is kind of sharp and intellectual, and humor is a kind of gentle way of laughing, quite often at people, and often for characteristics that aren't even particularly bad. I mean, it's a sort of sentimental comedy. So you see humor starting to become what it is now.
Helen.
Yes, it can sometimes be that humorous means unbalanced.
Moody.
Moody, yes, but unbalanced. That
Yeah.
they are, they're not then I'm trying to do this without referencing things that we probably.
Yeah. You don't have to explain what you don't have to explain the pause, Helen. Just put a massive pause in. It'll be fine.
Yeah, unbalanced. I'll go here with humorous, meaning unbalanced.
Out of whack.
Yeah, and I say we're sort of at this. You know, this is the beginning of or one of, you know, the there are some forerunners to this, but in terms of being the name of the play and being the beginning of a number of plays that will use humor in this way, where, you know, this is very much the vanguard of shifting ideas of what plays will be doing with this word, with these ideas, and we'll be doing more of that as we go further into the end of the 1590s and into the early 17th century. There are more humour plays to come, so hopefully you're all enjoying this one, because otherwise we've vaguely enjoyed the last one. So, you know, hopefully it'll be a good trend. Okay, we're going to move to final thoughts now. So the play overall so far, are we enjoying it? What would we like to do with it? Anything leaping out that's good, bad, or ugly? And yeah, just generally, how much are we looking forward to the meeting the King of France? Where do we want to go? So Lalitte, do you have any final thoughts you want to throw in?
Yes, only that. This is a weird thought. I really miss having servants and lower orders around to kind of frame the upper class characters. It's all kind of set within this quite narrow social band high up the ladder. And so you don't get that sort of, I mean, I wonder if the play had a sort of snob appeal in a way. Because it's all about this little wordplay, and it's not quite comedy of manners, but yeah.
No, it's a good point. You're right. We haven't really passed all the social scales yet, though spoilers for next time, some servants may be available. But no, it's a really good point about the way this play is structured as well, how it's setting everything up. It's like it sets up one set of characters, and then they'll mention the next set, and then they'll do that, and then they'll set the next. It's very nicely structured, actually, of not throwing too much at us all at once. And of course, what we've done is actually quite short, textually wise. You know, this isn't a short play, but it's not by any means the longest. So it's moving along quite quickly, actually, or would be if we were just letting it flow. Rachael, any final thoughts?
I'm enjoying it so far. He's been doing. I don't know if this is just my perception of it or if he's actually doing this, but there's something in this where he's taking these, you know, characters that might be stereotyped in other plays, and he's just tweaking them just a bit and giving us something that's slightly new and refreshing. And there's something about his use of language that seems just slightly more modern, sort of like Marston's, but a lot less bitter.
Yeah, there's a lot of there is some light mockery and play it, but it doesn't seem anywhere near as mean at all, does it? Sascha, any final thoughts about the play so far?
Yeah, it's good pace, good fun, nice repartee, interesting switcheroo of the statuses and the roles. And it'd be interesting to see how far down the rabbit hole that Lemot decides to do. Yeah, how far he'll decide to go down. It'd be quite interesting to see whether he comes adrift, shall we say.
Helen, any final thoughts?
I quite like this actually. I think Martia is a splendid character. Got a lot of potential there, and I haven't the slightest idea what's going to happen next, which is always fun.
Excellent. We have a convert. They haven't told us where we're going all the way through, so it's nice.
No.
Francis, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it too, with reservations. I mean, like Alan, I'm finding it a bit difficult to follow at times. But as you've said, it will probably be clearer in the staging. Yeah, but I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yes, there's a lot of decisions about precisely where lines are going to people, and there's a lot of precision punctuation work to do as well. You know, the tedious stuff that people watching this video really don't care about, but you know, which makes a huge difference later down the line. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's moving at a good pace. I think we do need at the end of it to basically try and establish who is who and where they sit in the pecking order, as it were, in terms of the social scale. One thing that did strike me is there's quite a lot of what I thought was possibly slightly earlier material in terms of the sort of the Tudor conceits, the wordplay humour, which I think was popular 10, 20 years earlier than this, in terms of the tradition of the Tudor conceits.
Yeah, there were certainly bits, you know, that reminded me of Lily, and some of that wordplay and things, but actually much more accessible. Actually, it was explaining the gag as it was going along at times, rather than just going, "Do you understand Latin? Then you'll find this hilarious," which is very annoying because that's a massive barrier. Lois, any final thoughts?
Well, it's a boys' company play. Apparently,
no, is it?
Isn't it?
No. Admiral's Men, isn't it?
That is it really?
Yeah.
Good heavens.
Made loads of money for Henslow.
Oh, right. Gosh, it feels, I mean, with all these, the female characters, the courtship and so on, how odd. So Chapman actually started, I didn't even realize that he started with the Admiral's Men and then moved on to,
Yeah, £2 and 3 shillings on the first performance, and it only went up actually for the next 12 that we have. Next 10 or so performances, it was going up to £3 a pop. It was very, very popular.
That really surprises me. I mean, it just seems with all this wordplay and stuff that you really need a small theater and you know, an intellectual audience to be enjoying this kind of thing. I mean, I just find it hard to picture a large theater finding all this stuff uproarious, because the plot isn't really going anywhere, and it's primarily just about people teasing each other and showing off. Yeah, of course. I mean, Every Man in His Humor was put on by the Lord Chamberlain's Men, and may have been, in fact, a kind of reaction to this one, I suppose. You know, we can do a humorous play too, but you can see in that one that it would work for a large audience in a way that, this one kind of puzzles me.
Oh, I mean, I am interested because a lot of the humor is structured. Yes, there is wordplay, but I say that it is trying to open it out so that people can get it, and they throw the audience a crumb by, every so often to make sure there's this very straightforward gag. So I think it's quite an interesting compromise. I feel that George Chapman is pushing in a certain direction, but he's also giving enough to the audience as well, because it is at least structured quite nicely in terms of delivering the various plot lines. But, yeah.
I mean, I think he was already pretty famous at this point for having published some translations of Homer. Anybody who
that Chapman,
that Chapman, yes, on first looking into Chapman's Homer, yes. And
I've read it. It's incomprehensible.
yeah. A lot of his writing strikes me as incomprehensible. I mean, he also completed Hero and Leander after Marlowe's death, and it's terribly hard to understand that. And there are bits of this that I find hard to understand. I mean, you get the general idea. There's a great sense of there's something very sort of poetic and idealistic being talked about, but you're not really able to pin it down.
I should point out this isn't the earliest George Chapman play. We've got one from the year before, which we haven't done yet. So we are dancing around the chronology slightly. Hence the fact we're talking about a play that is influenced by this, which we've done before this in that sort of irritating way schedules throw things at us. Eric, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of feel like, because you mentioned, I think it was Rachael who mentioned Marston at some point, and it's like, yeah, it's like we've been talking about structure and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, we're not waiting for Act 5 to get the gag, which is quite nice. It's like setting stuff up, and then immediately, almost immediately, you get the payoff, and which is quite fun. And the other thing I was going to mention is that I feel kind of guilty for enjoying it, because like there's parts where like like sort of light misogyny kind of, or heavy misogyny, it's misogyny anyway, whatever, and like sort of should we be laughing at that, but then it's just so much fun to read.
Alan again.
Yeah, one thing actually, thinking about Chapman's reputation, there's blessedly little Latin showing up in the script, which at least means I've been able to understand most of the words.
But he is, however, deliberately scattering some in
Yeah, but
he is structuring it in a way that's reasonably accessible.
Yeah, but it's not the huge bleeding chunks we get in a large number of the plays we've done, where, as far as I'm concerned, it's alphabet soup.
Who is next? Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, so what I've figured out so far is about the population of this play is that Lemot just likes to stir up trouble for his own amusement. Okay, I've got that figured out. But other than that, I'm having a hard time perceiving who these people are, what they want, and how they feel about anything. I'm having a real hard time understanding what's going on. So I'm just kind of going to defer judgment until all of that crystallizes for me over the next couple days.
Okay, which is fair enough. We can reserve judgments at this stage. Yeah, that question of how and it's fair to say it is a comedy. Because one of the titles we have, if we go with Henslow, it's the comedy of humours. So that's the alternative title rather than the printed title. But Henslow wrote all sorts of random titles, but we're pretty certain this is the same one. So yeah, that this is a comedy doing certain kind of comedy business, and yeah, we were talking about these various different explorations of different kind of excessive personalities, and that there's the fun in that, and there's just enough plot to string those performances together, perhaps, or it's just a matter that we haven't really got the plot strands ticking over enough yet, that we've laboured on this slightly more. All we've really had time to do is introduce some characters. Some people are trying to woo other characters, and some people are trying to hinder that wooing. So it's sort of fitting into a new comedy sort of vein, but not perhaps as our primary comic thrust. Any additional thoughts anyone wants to randomly throw in before I close this session? We're all feeling pretty happy where we are. Okay, well, that's it for and Humorous Days Mirth. There will be more days of Mirth to come as we continue working our way through this text and trying to find out where it's all going to go. Yes, all that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Will it please you to perambulate?